Hi everyone, welcome to Simply Done Tech. In this video, we are going to talk about SSH versus Session Manager. Which one should you use? This one will entail hands-on experience, so you'll be able to go away and practice on your own. Both SSH and Session Manager are a secure way of connecting to your server, in this case, AWS instance. Okay, so I'm going to dive into each of them and why you need to choose which one over the other. Okay, so Session Manager is a feature, it's part of what we call AWS System Manager, and this will allow you to connect to an instance without you managing the keys, SSH keys. Okay. If you are in a scenario whereby you need to manage the keys, then you choose SSH keys. So in this scenario, if you don't want to start messing around with SSH keys, rotating them, keeping them on your local and making sure this is secure at all time, you go for what we call Session Manager. Again, if you have your server in what we call a private subnet, you do not need to have what we call SSH. You can use Session Manager to do this. Okay, Session Manager will also allow you to secure this session or this connection using what we call KMS, so key management system that AWS have. So again, you can log all your session commands and details in S3 or CloudWatch logs. Okay, and to add to that, you don't need to have your instance have a public IP to connect to it. By that I mean, if you have your server which is in a secure environment, let's say in a subnet, a private subnet, you can securely connect to that server using Session Manager. Okay, so with Session Manager, what you need to do is you tie a role. I will show you what role is it called. It's SSM instance role. So you attach that to the server, in this case our EC2 instance, with a policy that will be able to, you can grant or you can revoke this IAM permission, and this will help you not to mess around with what we call the authorized key. With the authorized keys, which is when you are connecting to SSH using SSH, this is where the key will be published. It's a file. Okay, so this is why you need to use Session Manager. If you don't want to manage SSH keys and it's a secure way of connecting to your server, you go for Session Manager. But there are some situation use cases whereby you need to use SSH. In this scenario, SSH, you need to have SSM agent running on your server. Most of this AMI that we have, most of this Linux operating system will have what we call SSM agent already running, unless you have it missing or it's outdated or you are running on outdated AMIs. With that in mind, then you can connect using what we call the SSH, or you have a stream work custom or workflow where you need raw SSH feature. Okay, again, based on your use case. Okay, so let's switch quickly to the console, and what we're going to do, I have a server already running, but this server you cannot connect to it using SSH. By that we are being bound away from using SSH. Okay, the only option is to connect using what we call Session Manager. So in this case, I'm going to walk you through how to attach a role which has a permission to be able to connect to this server using Session Manager. Okay, so let's move on to my management console. Okay, so let me go to my management console. I have this instance which is already running. Give it a second for it to come up. It's up and running. Okay, so if you want to connect to the instance, securely connect to this instance, okay, you go on the connect, you check the box, you go to connect, connect to the instance, and what we are interested is Session Manager. Again, if you are connecting using SSH client, this is where you need to manage your SSH keys. In this scenario, we don't have any keys to manage, therefore we need to connect using Session Manager. Okay. As you can see, SSM agent was unable to connect to the system manager endpoint. So if you experience this error, what you need to think about it first is, does this instance have access or the permission to be able to connect to this instance? By that, Is this agent up and running? And they have the permission to connect to System Manager endpoint. Okay, it doesn't. So what we need to do, we go back to the instance, let's take a step back, and then what we need to do is go to security. Again, if you haven't watched my video how to basically modify an existing IAM role for a server or an instance, please watch my video, subscribe to it, and you'll be able to be notified anytime I do new videos. So here, let's go to security, and then you modify IAM roles. Can you see we have no rows attached? So what we can do is to create our own role and then attach this rows to this instance. Okay, if you don't already have it, you have two options. You can either select this create new role, or you can go back to IAM role, create a role, and then come and attach it here. Look for it here. But what you will do is you open a new tab here. So right click and then open new tab. We got it here. Right. So we're going to create a role, and then it is a service. Okay. A trusted entity is AWS service. An EC2 instance is going to assume a role to be able to have the session manager connected. So we go to that, and then we are interested in EC2. That's the server. And then you go to next. What are we looking for? So this is the permission that we are going to grant to this EC2 instance. So the permission or the role or the policy that we're going to attach to this role, it is AWS managed policy. Okay, to that end, let's look for it. I think it's SSM. Let me look for SSM. Is yeah, so Amazon SSM managed instance call. So this is the role. This is actually the policy that we need. Okay, the policy, when analyzed, you get the permission. Okay, I'm not gonna go into details about what it is, but this is the policy that you need. Let's click onto this. Let me show you here quickly. It tells you the policy for Amazon EC2 role to enable AWS System Manager Service core functionalities. This is what you need. Okay. Again, remember, Session Manager is a feature of what we call AWS System Manager. So you are going to allow this instance to have this feature of SSM, or what we call the Session Manager, to have access, and you'll be able to connect securely without managing keys. So let's check that box. Okay, go to next, and then we give the role a name. So let's call this dev instance. Okay, so this is the name. You can describe it if you want. Okay, so in this scenario, let's leave the description the way it is. Okay, it's going to assume role, and it's going to have this permission. This session manager, okay, EC2, is going to assume a role with this policy, which I have already shown you what it's going to do. Okay, once it's done, you'll be able to connect. So let's create the role. So the role is being created. Okay, so what we will do is let's go back to where we were here whilst we were attaching the instance role, so we can refresh that. Okay, and the role was called the dev instance. That's the one we just provisioned. Okay, let's go back to confirm the name. Dev instance. Yeah, so dev instance, that's the one we want. And then what we need to do is to update. Okay, give it a minute. So we will try and connect again. So this time it's still not gonna work. Okay, what we need to do is to reboot the system. Okay, reboot the server for all these changes to take effect. Okay, by that, let's try and refresh this and see. Okay, what we need is the session manager, and we still got this issue. You think, what is going on? I've enabled the role, Okay, I've added the permission and I'm still having this unable to connect. Okay, the issue is you need to reboot your instance. So we go back to the instance. Let's reboot it here. Actually, let's go back in here, and what you need to do is to reboot. Yeah, reboot instance, reboot. Okay, give it a few seconds, few minutes, let's say, and then go back to connect again. Okay, try and refresh it. Okay, session manager, give it a minute. Okay, give it a few minutes. Right, refresh that again. Okay, now it's good. Okay, so the system need to be reboot and set up all these new changes, this instant role profile we are adding to the server. So it's good. So here you can connect, and here we go. You're going to have um, a secure connection, which is just a shell that will be provisioned for you. Okay, you have a section. This is the section, and then you'll be able to do all the good stuff you need to do. Control L. Okay, you can create everything you need to do. Okay, right. So here you can manipulate all the various file or the reason why you needed to SSH into a server. In this case, I'm not managing any key pair or anything like that. To add to that, the instance, I don't need to open any port 22 or anything like that. Again, this will reduce our attack level. Eh, By that, we are not opening any port. Okay. To add to that, these keys, I don't need to rotate any keys. Everything is being done for me. Okay, I can terminate the session and I'm done. All the commands or anything that I'm doing here can also be published into S3 or CloudWatch log for auditing purposes. Right. I hope you learned something. It's been a great journey. Please keep commenting, keep subscribing, keep liking the videos, and I'm happy to push out as many videos as I can. Happy learning. Bye bye.